Yes, take accountability. Yes, you should have been doing better. But at the same time, you did the best that you could with the information and the environment that you had. All right, so the other day I put up an affirmation that said, Black man, forgive yourself for the mistakes you've made, right? And then I received this DM. So I'm gonna read out the DM to y'all and we'll talk about my response to it. So it goes like this. I've personally been struggling with completely forgiving myself for ways I didn't show up emotionally in my last relationship. That led to a breakup a little over a year ago. Been in therapy and working through a lot of things, including forgiving myself, but still haven't fully moved on and let go of my ex. Recently saw that she's moved on to another relationship. I don't follow her, but a friend told me. And the self-blame and beating myself up came right back. I can't help but trace the whole situation back to myself. It be like that for real. I say all that to ask if there are specific steps to work on forgiving yourself as a man for past mistakes, especially in a relationship. So basically, this is a man that's been through a tough breakup, a difficult breakup, and he's trying to get through the healing process after that. And this is so common. I don't think we understand how common it is for us as Black men to go through difficult breakups and then try and heal and have a hard time with actually healing. And the reason why is because a lot of us don't talk about these things in our friend groups. A lot of us don't have healthy conversations about what it looks like to heal post breakup and what it looks like to forgive yourself after a breakup and after you know you've made a mistake, whether it be in a relationship or just in general. Right? And most men start their healing journey after a breakup. I'm not surprised anymore, but you guys will be surprised to know there's a lot of men that whenever I ask them like, yo, what started you along your healing journey? What made you decide that you wanted to be a better person? What made you get into personal development? A lot of them trace that all the way back to dealing with a tough breakup, whether it be in their teens, in their adulthood, that made them want to get better mentally, physically, whatever the case may be, right? In all aspects of their lives. So if you're a man and you're going through a breakup right now and you're going through your healing and your growth stage, just understand that you are not alone. This is something that's very common amongst men. So don't feel like you're doing anything wrong or you're an anomaly or like you have nobody else that you can relate to when it comes to this kind of situation, because I'm telling you from personal experience with having conversations with hundreds of men that this is something that's very, very, very common, especially in Black men, right? And I want to take this back to my breakup that I dealt with in 2017. I can relate heavily to this DM because I was the same exact way. After my girl and I broke up in 2017, we were in a relationship for about 5 years, right? So from the ages of 14 to 19. Basically, all of my teenage years, all the years that everybody's figuring out how to talk to all these different type of people and getting in all these different types of relationships and having sex and doing all these different things, I was locked down in a relationship from high school into college as well, right? So sophomore year of college, we break up and that took a huge, huge, huge toll on me. And what I was doing is exactly what this young man is doing that sent me the DM. I was beating myself up. Anytime I learned about anything new happening in her life or anytime I thought about the past relationship, I would beat myself up because I couldn't forgive myself for the mistakes that I made, right? And I held myself to this unrealistic standard of excellence. And that's what a lot of us do as men. We hold ourselves to these standards that are not attainable. And even when we know we didn't know any better in the past, it's hard for us in the present to forgive our past selves. And so that's what I'm trying to help you guys to understand, that, yo, you did not know any better. That's really the reality of it. A lot of us did not know any better. I was in that relationship from the ages of 14 to 19. I was growing as I was in the relationship, and I still had a lot more growing to do after the relationship. So when I got out of the relationship, of course, I learned things that I was doing and habits that I had and behaviors that I had that were inside of the relationship that were unhealthy. Of course, I was able to now, in hindsight, realize what I was doing that was unhealthy in the relationship. Of course, right? And we all do that. That's part of growth. That's part of the self-reflection that you should be doing after you get out of a relationship. But you shouldn't allow that self-reflection to start to make you feel like you're lesser than and that you were never supposed to make those mistakes and never supposed to act out in that way, because at the end of the day, you did not know any better, bro. You didn't know any better. And what happens is our inner voice becomes our biggest bully. We don't need anybody to tell us anything, because a lot of times for a lot of Black men, our inner voice is our biggest bully. So we'll bully ourselves for so many different things that we've done out of circumstance, out of operating in survival mode, out of just not knowing better, we will bully ourselves in the present based off of those things that we've done in the past. And I want you to not be a prisoner of your past anymore, right? Accountability without grace is a recipe for disaster, right? Because you get stuck in the loop of replaying all the things that you did wrong over and over and over and over again, but you don't give yourself grace to be able to understand that in the past, you were operating from different circumstances, different environments, different information. In the present, it's a lot easier in hindsight to look back and say, I shouldn't have been operating that way. But what you need to understand is, yes, take accountability. Yes, you should have been doing better. But at the same time, you did the best that you could with the information and the environment that you had. And like I said, a lot of us hold ourselves to these unrealistic standards and these standards of perfection, even when we didn't know any better, bro. You don't have to be perfect. It's okay.
It's fine.
You made a mistake. You're human. That does not make you a bad person. You're just a person who's growing. That's simply what it is. You're a person who's growing. An affirmation that really, really, really helps me with forgiveness and forgiving myself when I make mistakes is, I am a human being. I'm allowed to make mistakes. And when I know I've made a mistake and I've taken accountability, I give myself grace and I repeat that affirmation to myself to enforce the idea that I am allowed to make mistakes. And I want you to take that with you for whatever it is that you may be struggling to forgive yourself for, because you are allowed to make mistakes. You are allowed to make mistakes. You are human. You are not perfect. You cannot hold yourself to a standard of perfection, because you will always fall short of that. You will always fall short of that. You are not perfect. You never will be.
Never, never, never.
This is not to say not to take accountability for the mistakes that you've made, but it's to say to give yourself grace and forgive yourself for those mistakes so that you can move on, learn, and grow from them and be better in the future instead of bullying yourself. Because a lot of times that's what we end up doing when we make these mistakes, is we bully ourselves. And that's not necessary, and it's not healthy. It's not conducive to living a healthy and fulfilling life after making a mistake, right? And so what I mentioned earlier as Black men is that we go through breakups. And when we go through breakups, that's one of the real big motivating factors for us to either get in therapy, get in the gym, work on our physical health, start working on our financial health, start being more social. It motivates us to work on the different dimensions of wellness that we have within ourselves. It motivates us to basically grow. And so I want to help you guys, for any of you guys that may be dealing with a difficult breakup, things that I did to heal after dealing with a breakup, right? The first thing that I did was I took time to grieve, bro. I took time to grieve. And a lot of times we don't do that as Black men, especially when we're going through trauma. We talk to our bros, and some of our bros don't have the healthiest mindsets, right? And they just tell us to go have sex with somebody, or go smoke, or drink, or party, or whatever the case may be. And those things are not going to help you to get through what you're dealing with. So take your time to grieve, feel your emotions and process them. Understand what you're feeling, and do not internalize what you're going through, right? Find someone that you feel comfortable venting to. If you have a therapist, bring it up in session. If you don't have a therapist, have a friend that you feel comfortable talking to these things about. And I know everybody doesn't have friends, so if you don't have friends that you feel comfortable having those conversations with, journal. Journaling will save you so much time. Not only time, but it'll also save you from having to internalize and then explode in the future, right? Because when you don't have someone that you feel comfortable talking to, a lot of times what we do as men is we just internalize. I don't feel comfortable talking to this person or anybody, so I'm just gonna internalize what I'm dealing with. But journaling is a solution to expressing yourself individually, right? You don't have to have anybody to talk to journal, right? And it also gives you the same effects of basically talking to a therapist or talking to a friend and venting about your situation, right? It's a way that you can express and release what you're dealing with or what you're thinking about without having to involve an outside party. So journaling is definitely something that I always recommend. And when I was going through my breakup in 2017, that's something that I was doing heavily. And what I always tell people is you don't have to journal by writing things down in a notebook. That's not how you have to journal anymore. It's 2022. You can journal in so many different ways, right? This is a form of journaling. What I'm doing right now is video journaling. There's nobody else in here. I'm going to send this to, of course, I'm going to post this on YouTube, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. But right now I'm talking to myself, basically. This is a form of journaling and getting my expression out, right? Another way that you can journal is audio journaling. That's another form of journaling. You can have your phone, make a voice note. And then you can replay these things, right? You can replay the video journal. You can replay the audio journal. You can replay those further down the line to kind of see where your thought process was in that situation and understand how you're growing. It's an indicator of growth, right? It's an indicator of growth. Sometimes I have journals from like 2 years ago that I listen to and I just hear what my thought process was, right? And I can see how I've grown from then to now, right? So journaling is a big thing to do. It'll help you out. And if you don't have someone that you feel comfortable expressing yourself to, I always recommend journaling. And then the last thing that I want to talk about, especially for us as Black men, when we go through these breakups, when we go through these difficult situations, is to learn how to love and date yourself before you date and love somebody else, right? A lot of us don't know who we are outside of who society tells us to be. So when that happens, you have a hard time with your identity. And then when you add on the fact that you have a hard time forgiving yourself for past mistakes, you're basically in an identity crisis. And that can lead to depression. That can lead to suicidal ideations. That can lead to all of these different mental health issues because you don't know who you are. So learn to love and date yourself. You need to figure out who you are outside of who society tells you to be and outside of society's definition of manhood, because we already know how flawed that definition can be. All of that love that you want to give to someone else, all of that love that you want to pour into other people, learn to first pour it into yourself. Please spend time taking yourself on dates, getting haircuts, getting massages, getting a manicure, getting a pedicure, reading books, going to the gym, learning a new skill, whatever it is that makes you happy, as long as it's healthy and is not detrimental to your overall well-being. Whatever that thing is, spend time doing that and spend time giving yourself love, because you cannot properly love somebody else. You cannot properly move on until you've done that with yourself. And those are the things that I would give y'all as tips for dealing with how to heal after a breakup, for dealing with forgiving yourself. And just understand that forgiveness is a process, man. It's a process, yo.
Just give it time.
It's not gonna come overnight. You're gonna have moments like this young man that sent me the DM where you are going to replay those situations. But one thing that I said in this that will really help you is that affirmation, right? When you find yourself replaying that situation that you had, that you did wrong, that mistake that you made, I want you to say this affirmation to yourself. I am human. I am allowed to make mistakes. I am doing the best I can with the tools I have, right? Because you are. So give yourself grace, forgive yourself for the mistake that you've made, and understand that you are human, you are growing, you are not a bad person. You're just evolving with the new knowledge and new environments that you're presented with. All right, and that's all I gotta say to y'all. I love y'all. I hope y'all are good. Leave any comments below. Please take it easy on yourself. And with that, I want y'all to know, Black man, it's okay to not be okay, because it is. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.
Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. A shoulder to lean on, somebody you could preach to. No, you need to hear it, my brother, I love you. We got way too much to live for.